Hey everyone. It feels like every time you turn on the news, you hear about the tension between the US and Iran, right? Whispers of war are just everywhere. But what's really going on? If we cut through all that noise and just look at the hard evidence, what story does it actually tell? Well, that's exactly what we're going to do right now.
So it's the big question, isn't it? Are the US and Iran really on the brink of war? To get a real answer, we can't just listen to what the politicians are saying. Nope. We have to look at what both sides are actually doing on the ground. Okay, so for the next few minutes, let's pretend we're intelligence analysts. Our job? To ignore all the chatter and just follow the evidence. We're looking for the signals, not the noise. And I promise, by the end of this, you're going to have a much clearer picture of what's actually happening.
All right. First up, let's decode what the US military is doing. I mean, forget the press conferences and the official statements for a second. What are their forces in the region actually up to? Because that's where the truth usually lies.
And right away, you see this huge gap between the headlines and reality. The fear, the thing that gets clicks, is this idea of a massive pre-strike buildup. But what's really happening? Well, it's something a lot less dramatic: logistics and surveillance. So what are we seeing? Well, we're seeing a bunch of C-17s and C-5M flights. Now, these are giant cargo planes. Think of them as the military's moving trucks. They're for resupply, not for leading an attack. We're also seeing a ton of P-8s and drones flying around, basically keeping an eye on everything. But you know, what's even more telling is what we're not seeing. There's no big surge of aircraft carriers, no new amphibious assault ships showing up, no new fighter squadrons being deployed. These are the big, loud signals you'd expect right before an attack, and they're just not there. It's quiet.
You know, all this activity has a name. It falls under one big military umbrella term, ISR. That stands for Intelligence, Surveillance, and Reconnaissance. Basically, it's the toolkit for watching and listening, not for fighting. At least, not yet. So what's the takeaway here? The US isn't winding up to throw a punch. It's more like they're standing with their guard up, really high, just sending a very clear message to Iran. A message that says, hey, we see you, we are ready, so don't even think about it. It's classic deterrence. Okay, that's one side of the coin. Now, let's flip it over and look at Iran. We've all heard the fiery speeches, right? But the question is, does their military posture actually match their words? We're going to apply the exact same logic here. Separate the talk from the action. Yeah, you hear this kind of thing from officials in Tehran all the time. It's very strong, very defiant language. It's designed to project strength, to make them look tough and deter any potential attack. But is there any real action to back it up? And this is where the story gets really interesting. Because when analysts look for the key signs that Iran is getting ready for a big fight, they're coming up empty. We're just not seeing their ballistic missile units moving out to their launch sites, their air force isn't scattering its planes to protect them from a first strike, and maybe most importantly, they haven't closed their nationwide airspace, which is one of the first things you do if you thought a war was about to break out. And if you look inside Iran, the picture is one of anxiety, sure, but not full-on war prep. The general public is definitely nervous. You can see it in the markets. But the political and military elites, they're not evacuating their families or moving their money. And trust me, that's a huge sign. If they thought an attack was truly imminent, they'd be the first ones to get their loved ones out of harm's way. That's a really powerful indicator.
Okay, so let's recap. We have all this superheated rhetoric on both sides, but very little actual military prep to back it up. So how do we make sense of all this? Well, professional analysts actually have ways to quantify this risk, to put a number on it.
Think of it like a Richter scale, but for geopolitical tension. You know, a 1 would be total peace, and a 10 is all-out war. So with everything we've just looked at, where do you think the needle is right now?
Right now, the consensus is that we're at a 6 out of 10. So yeah, the tension is real, it's absolutely elevated, but it's not at that critical red alert pre-war level. For the moment, it seems to be contained. And this chart really breaks down why we're at a 6. Look, the rhetoric, that's high. The economic strain on Iran, also high. Those things are pushing the tension way up. But the military mobilization, it's moderate at best. That's what's keeping things from boiling over. It's a classic case of the actions just not matching the words.
So the big question is, what happens next? If we take all this evidence, all these signals, what's the most likely thing to happen in, say, the next 72 hours? Let's actually break down the probabilities. Okay, here's the forecast.
The most likely scenario, with a 55% probability, is that we just get more of the same. This tense status quo continues. What about smaller stuff, like a proxy group taking a shot at something or some harassment in the shipping lanes? Well, those are less likely. And a direct conventional military strike between the US and Iran? That's actually the least likely outcome of all, sitting at just an 8% chance.
So, after looking at all the evidence, our little investigation leads to a pretty clear verdict. The current posture on both sides is all about deterrence, not preemption. What does that mean? It means neither side is getting ready to throw the first punch. Instead, they're both just trying to convince the other guy not to. So for now, things look stable. But let's be real, in a standoff this tense, stable can be a pretty fragile word. It could all change in an instant. So that leaves us with one final, crucial question. What's the one trigger, the one red line, that could change everything and turn this cold standoff hot? That is the question we all need to keep asking.